Janice, are you ready? They do roll call.
President Davidson,
Present?
Vice President Ricketts,
Present.
Secretary Kincaid, present. Treasurer Hahn,
Present.
Director Arlott,
Present.
Director Hector,
Present.
Director Stovey,
Present.
Director Setzer.
Here.
All right, you have a quorum. Everybody's present.
Then I will call the meeting to order as I look for our agenda, which I don't find in my package, Marvel, but
Here.
no, Tom just gave me his.
Okay.
Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ginger, would you ask your gentleman in the back? Scott, are you able to mute the people who have unmuted themselves? That muted us too. Okay.
Star 6.
Okay, for anyone on the phone, if you did not hear me earlier, we have muted all lines on the phone. Please do not unmute your phone until we get to the business section of the meeting. Mr. Armstrong will be doing a report, and he has asked that the phones be muted, as did Vesta, and we have no problems with it at all. First item on the agenda is the approval of the Friday, February 4th, 2022 meeting of the Board of Directors. And I have a motion to approve those minutes. Thank you, Liz. A second? Thank you, Barbara. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I will call the question. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes of the February 4th meeting are approved. I will turn the meeting over to Ginger. The first item on Ginger's agenda is the third quarter financial reports for the land trust, which will be given by Dan over the phone. Dan, make sure you unmute your phone if it isn't already.
Can you hear me?
And now, yes.
Excellent, thank you. Good morning, everybody. This is Dan Armstrong. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida, the CFO of Vesta, reporting to you for the third quarter results of the Kings Point City Trust. Everybody, I hope all the board members have their 8-page packet in their hands. We're going to start on the first page, of course. This is the statement of financial position. It has 3 columns, one representing the most recent quarter end. It compares to the middle column of the most recent fiscal year end, and then has a change column. Let's focus on the top section just a little bit, because cash is always very important. If you look at the first subtotal, total cash right-hand column, is a negative $302,000 and change. That is a drop in cash. That is okay. It is right on budget. As we discussed at the RTC meeting a couple weeks back, budget actually included a $300 rounded drop in cash during the year, and we're 3/4 of the way through the year, so we're right on target. Let's get into the detail of the cash a little bit. We do have 2 notes that I wanted to point out. The second line item, surplus cash from prior years, does have a little asterisk there that directs your attention to a footnote at the bottom of the page matching that asterisk. And then the last cash item, capital reserves, has a double asterisk and a footnote matching it. You can read those, but it just basically gives you a little bit of information about what is in the account or what is causing the change in the account. The cash overall is in very good shape. As we discussed during the budget season, we came into the year very well reserved, and it is a heavy capital expenditure year. Therefore, the budget included a drop in cash planned. Now let's move down the page a little bit. The next section is other current assets. If you look at the total, there's an increase in this quarter end compared to last year end of about $224,000. That's substantially that fourth line item, an increase in prepaids. And I talk about this a lot, but we prepay the annual insurance policies every April. So it's a low prepaid balance at year end, but it's high balance the rest of the year. So that's the reason for that variance. Going to the next two sections, I'll kind of talk about them in tandem. Changes in the land improvements or the fixed assets during the year, or long-term leases, the first line of the next section. But we do amortize and or depreciate, as the appropriate accounting term is, the value of those assets during the year. And that's why there's a change in the right-hand column to those two line items that read accumulated depreciation and accumulated amortization. Those entries are basically just to allow the net, which is the subtotal of that group, to show the relative value or the adjusted book value as the year goes on. Going on down, the second half of your statement of financial position is your liabilities and your net assets. You can see from the subtotal that the current liabilities is up to $97,000, using the rounded figures always, and that is appropriate because we're in season. We're going to have more unpaid bills in a given day or weekend during season than we do on March 31st. And the next section, it shows your long-term debt. You can see the top line item is decreased by about $1.2 million. That is the balance of your long-term note with your creditor. It does decrease on a monthly basis as the payments are made. The other three line items are just accounting related designations, basically. The first one is reallocating the current portion of your long-term debt into the above section, so you always know what you're going to pay in the next 12 months. And the next two are just accounting entries for what they generally accepted accounting principles. And then you have your prior accumulated net assets and the net income line in the next section, and of course the total liabilities net assets bottom line agrees to that line at the middle of the page called total assets. And that's why we call it a balance sheet, is one of the other names for it. All right. Any changes on the balance sheet?
Before.
Or questions? Forgive me.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, before.
Just fine.
Before we leave this page,
Put your mic.
let me use the other mic. Before we leave this page, you provided to the RFEC the third quarter financials during the February meeting, and we have made changes to it. One relating to the surplus cash from previous years. We've increased that, I believe it was 224,000 to 296,000. And we changed the capital reserves down to $722,482. Ginger explained to the board the reason for the change was some accounting error that we did catch. I wanted to thank you, Ginger, and Richard Schrauber for working through it and getting it so those two items truly reflected the amount of money, so I appreciate it. And I'm quite sure that at the next RFEC meeting, Ginger will present that revised page, because nothing else truly was revised except those two figures. Am I correct?
Yeah, it was a duplication.
Yeah, it was a duplication. So we would just make sure the RFEC has those two corrections. For those in the audience, Dan referenced asterisks under surplus cash from prior year, which at the end of third quarter shows $296,024. The asterisk reads that there is surplus cash of $256,763 of that money, which is encumbered for the Kings Point North Club tile project, which was a part of this year's budget, and we're pushing it to next year's budget. So we are making sure that money is encumbered and cannot be used for anything else. The other one which we discussed was the double asterisk for capital reserves. The capital reserves were reduced by $68,944 due to an audit change in the cash per the audit which we did during the month of July and August, and which was reported to the board. So those two things are asterisk to show why those figures have changed and what they represent, and that cash is encumbered. And with that, Dan, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify one thing though, because I heard the word duplication. I didn't want anybody to think that there was a double counting of cash. What happened in the correction or the change was a reallocation of some cash between two line items. So the cash reported everything was right. There was a misunderstanding on where the cash was supposed to be represented, and now it is in the correct side. But the cash is right. All right, so let's go forward. And page 2 is your statement of financial position.
Dan,
and consolidating.
Dan, no problem.
Yes, sir.
Dan, no problem. You can blame Ginger for the word duplication. So it wasn't anybody on the board.
Is that who?
Yeah, it was Ginger who said it. So you can beat her up later.
Got it. I'll kick her under the table this time. Thank you. All right, page 2 is your consolidating statement of financial position. This is a lot of detail. I would never try to cover this on the phone or try to take your eyes all over the page, but just remember this page takes all the departments and puts them in separate columns and combines them. In order to combine them, you have to eliminate in that next to last column the transactions that occur between the columns. So that right-hand column, the combined column, agrees to the left-hand page that we just left. And there's a lot of detail for on page 2 and page 4 of this report always that you can go through. Turning to page 3, we have a statement of cash activities, also known as the profit and loss statement, or income statement. Let's take our eyes to the bottom right-hand corner, as I tend to do. And you can see in the right-hand column, you have a positive number, 3556. That is a favorable variation to net cash flow. And you can see how that subtotal is labeled. Going up another section, number remains the same to net assets, a favorable variance of about $3,500. Going up another section, but staying in the right-hand column, your income/loss from operations has a favorable variance of almost $57,000. So how did operations outpace the total results? Going back down to the section right below it, you can see there are negative variances on interest income. We earned less than we budgeted, and a negative variance on the board-approved non-budgeted items. And that, by definition, will always be a negative variance, because we don't budget non-budgeted items. Okay, so now just a tidbit about operations, because we talked about it mostly on the detail pages, because this is global, remember. How did we achieve $57,000 favorable income? Well, we had an $87,000 savings in total operating expenses. So at the bottom of the operating expense section, right-hand column, we're under budget by that amount. But bouncing up to the top section, revenues, you can see we were unfavorable variance to budget of about $31,000. And we'll touch briefly on the details of that a couple pages later. So let's flip to page 4. This again is your high detail page, shows all the departments and the activities and how they combine up to the consolidated number that was on the page we just left. Again, there are eliminations and a income statement, our eliminations are slightly different because we've added one where we eliminate the costs associated with the vehicles that are in the variable interest entity and move them into a separate line item so that you can visually see at a consolidated level what expenses were incurred to support the vehicles that are owned by another entity. That other entity being a wholly owned sub of the Federation. So it's not an outside entity, but it does allow that cross support basically to be seen separately on the line. Now, let's go to the actual versus budget pages. Starting with, a page number is not present. I think it's page 5, the trust, Kings Point Trust. Again, these last 4 pages are actual versus budget comparisons. And after the first quarter, they will always have 2 sets of 3 columns. The left-hand column will be the most recent quarter. The right-hand column will be the year-to-date. Each set of columns has an actual. In the middle is a budget and a variance. So you can dance your eyes all over the page to your heart's content, but I generally will go straight to the right-hand column, right-hand set of columns, right-hand column on the bottom. Now let's look at that. Net cash flow, negative 53,138 variance. What does that mean? What does that mean? That means in this case it's actually a negative variance. You can see that this trust, and the trust, remember, is a very isolated, specific purpose entity. Just holds your loan, it collects and remits the management fees, it records your loan payments, your debt service, and of course, interest earnings. So what are the negatives that cause that negative 53,000? Go all the way to the top section, right-hand column, and you'll see the interest earnings are $21,000 off budget. And then the third section, other income/expense, there's a line item in there for board-approved, non-budgeted items that has the other 32,000 is just negative budget. Again, those aren't budgeted, so anything that gets approved due to an emergency or something coming up that is not in the reserves of the entity will always be a negative variance. So that makes up that 52,000. The good news is, as you remember from a couple pages ago, overall, the variance is positive by $3,500. All right, go to page 6, please. Rec area is your actual versus budget. Same columns, of course. Going to the bottom right-hand column, you can see that there is an $11,000 favorable variance. What was that made up of? Well, the total income section, the top section, right-hand column, was about $31,000 off budget. So how did we have a favorable result? Well, we didn't spend all the expenses that were budgeted. If you look at the total expense line item, right-hand column, year-to-date, $42,000 favorable to budget. And there are a myriad of favorable and unfavorable lines above it that net to that number. So we won't go into all that detail unless you ask me to stop and address anything. All right, page 7, security. Bottom right-hand corner, change in net assets, a favorable variance of $19,000. That means, and in this case is another one of those weird things where we budgeted a negative, but we didn't, I'll use the word lose or spend as much as we budgeted. So therefore, it's a favorable result of $19,000 and change. The bulk of that is in the wage and employee line and other administrative costs. You can see. Page 8. Same thing, bottom right-hand corner. There's a positive number. We like to see that in the bottom right-hand corner. That's a favorable variance of $26,317. And the bulk of that is, again, in wages and benefits. This being the transportation division, you're all aware that the buses just didn't grow as much as normal early in the year. So that's as much as I'll try to touch on from here, unless you have questions.
I have one question for you, Dan. Going back to page 5,
Chris?
You discussed the $53,000 negative variance, and the majority of that was for expenses that were not budgeted. However, that money was taken from the excess cash, so it really didn't affect the budgeted dollars, and that's why we are positive, because we truly have that $53,000 or $32,000 available to spend. It just was not budgeted. Am I correct?
On a cash basis, yes. If we're talking about cash, there was a savings in other areas that allowed that expenditure of cash to not hurt our performance. On a income statement basis, it will show up as a negative number, but you're absolutely right as far as cash planning goes.
Okay, because we used the surplus cash to pay for unexpected expenses that arose throughout the first 3 quarters of the year. So we really, from a cash perspective, are fine with that. Am I correct with that assumption?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from the board? Then, Dan, I understand that unfortunately your wife had surgery and you have things that you have to get done. I appreciate you taking the time this morning. Go do the things you need to do, take care of your wife, and Godspeed for a quick recovery for her.
On behalf of the farmers, I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
You too. Ginger, I'll turn the meeting back over to you so you can do your report.
I don't know about you all, but Dan's the way to start a party, isn't it? Get him going.
We all gotta wake up now.
Okay, well, the fun has arrived. So let's talk about the trust and the amenities. I won't read the numbers to you. You've heard a lot of numbers already this morning. If you look at your fitness usage, you'll see 15% more than prior years. You'll see that trend going up for March. Very busy seasonal visitors are in now using the fitness center, 15%, plus 12 orientations, meaning people are still coming in, wanting to use the equipment and learn how to use the equipment. So total gym usage, just over 9,300, and that number will probably climb over 10,000 before the end of the season. Land group class, of course, you see those numbers go up as water usage goes down, water class usage because it's a little chilly outside. For the salon, you can see just a slight decrease over the prior month, but of clients served, but an increase over services, meaning those folks coming in are getting more services. They usually will get an add-on of something or other, but it's pretty much on par with the prior month. Last month, and you may recall me reporting, it was our largest volume service and merchandise sales since before COVID, but we still are off of plan by about 4,800. We aggressively budgeted and just haven't quite got there. We're hoping to come in strong for March. Food and beverage, look at these numbers, folks. Just shy of 9,200 patrons served at the South Club in February alone. That's a 21% increase in sales over the prior month, 15% ahead of plan, with $176,800 in sales. I'd like to shout out to the South Club crew because some of these folks are working 6 and 7 days a week. They're just busy serving. People are out going to the parties. We're doing, way over 150 for our special events like Rock and Rendezvous and trivia and karaoke and things like that. So if you go down there, thank them because it's a labor of love. They love what they do and they're doing a good job and really serving the clients during a very busy time. On our project updates, the South Club pool deck expansion, not a lot of progress here. We're still under phase 1. As you recall, the permit went out in the beginning of November. here it is, the March, and we're just 95% through the county. Victoria tells me it's about a dozen steps. We got another tick up, more step being passed, so hoping they get approval pretty soon and we can get into the rest of that project. Just a couple of things here, the 25-ton unit, we're still awaiting shipment on that, and we've got some AC units planned for replacement here in March. And no new news on the tram that is now slated for delivery for the end of 2022, and the board will talk about moving those funds a little bit later. Special event information, Kings Point Garage Sale, March 4th. The Winter Series is winding down. The only remaining show with availability is the Kingston Trio on March 28th. With the tremendous success of the Winter Series, Matthew and the team have added 2 additional shows in April, an Eagles Tribute and Billy Joel, and those are selling quite well. Are these getting close to sold out?
Eagles is getting closer to being sold out. Billy Joel is the last one.
Eagles getting close to sold out. Billy Joel has a few tickets left. All right, summer ticket sales, those are underway. Those sales begin May 16th. And as always, we have these special events, the Queen's Luncheon, the Open Air Market, the monthly movie and dinner, the Spring Flames, a big event coming up March 23rd, and the monthly line dance on March 8th. Followed by Brandon Ballet, which will go into our next fiscal year, but that's April 9th. Tram Services, the wheels are going around and they're doing about the same business as usual. Gate security, we getting close to that $10,000 phone call mark in a month. The highest call volume was February 18th, and just shy of 15,000 passes issued in February. Just think about that. That's a lot of passes, about 500 a day there. We have a couple notables here. A driver arrived at the front gate stating an envelope had been left in his mailbox with the wrong address. The driver came to the gate, asked security to look up the name on the return label, and he wanted to go to that mailbox and take that letter back. Security said, no, you can't come in here and do that, and there was no information saying this resident should come in. So after being advised to just take the letter back and leave it at the post office, he runs the gate. So I don't know about you, but if I get a letter that's not addressed to me, you remember the Elvis song? You just write return to sender on it, but to come through the community and run the gate because you're gonna take it back. It's just crazy out there. So security, I mean, this is one of many things that happen. We're gonna write a book one day. So security was able to follow the driver because they knew the address where he was going, right? And escort him off the property. They did notify him that his tag number had been recorded, but just sheesh. Now, on my second notable here for the incident reports, you can set your watch by this report. It is springtime, and Ginger's going to talk about gators. So the security was called at 10 p.m. at a very large alligator at around the corner of Kings and Kings, near the RV lot, blocking the road. They went down there, provided some traffic control and safety guidance, and the persistent alligator apparently insisted on standing his ground, did not move until the trapper came out and got him and put him in his truck. Trappers won't get them if they're in the water because they can submerge and go away, but if they're out on the road, they'll come get them. So we would like to, once again, remind our residents to please be aware of wildlife during the day and evening hours. It is not mating season, however, at this time of year, they do become active and start moving around. So that's my report.
And before we leave the Vesta report, yesterday I called Matt, asking him, and he doesn't know I'm going to even bring this up this morning. I asked him about fish fries on Fridays, seeing we have now entered Lent. And Matt, I don't remember the poundage of fish that you said that we actually sell. Do you remember what that figure was?
I do, 80 to 100 pounds on average.
80 to 100 pounds, and we may have a problem in obtaining more because of supply and demand, especially during Lent. And you already have the staff at the South Club looking for ways to serve the additional demand during Lent. Am I correct in what you said? So I just want to let people know that as fish becomes a greater demand on Friday due to Lent, that the South Club is working diligently to make sure that we have sufficient supply to serve the needs of the community.
And if you'll note when you go out, you can see Prince of Peace, they have their fish fries, so you'll be able to get it across the street if you can't, but yeah, lots of fish.
So, Matt, I appreciate that you have your staff working on that particular issue and seeing what we can do to accommodate the residents for fish fries on Friday. So thank you very much, I appreciate it. And to me, 100 pounds of fish is a lot of fish. With that, I will turn the meeting over to Keith for his report from First Service on property management.
Thank you, Jack. We did have an incident with a gator in the back pond. We saw him having some lunch one day and it was a little aggressive, so yeah, they're out there and stay away if they're feeding.
You didn't have Ryan go take care of it?
Oh, he went near it, yeah, he has the trapping kit out, so. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, board. This is the First Service Management Report for the month of February. Again, just quickly, presently all the current board members are owners of their condominium parcels and up to date on their maintenance fees as of March 3rd. Again, operations under COVID, we are still fully open. Obviously, we're leaving the shields up on the front desks. But again, if you need us, there's a litany of ways to get a hold of us, drop stuff off at the drop box, call the front office, call your CAMs, and we're here when you need us. A couple of administrative stats for the board for the month of February. We had 53 transfers and 29 leases completed. And just looking back at the stats, there was 561 transfers completed in 2021. So roughly that's just over 10% turnover, and that's pretty average for Kings Point. So there's a lot of new folks coming in and a lot of turnover, so I just want to run that number by you. That's over 10%, and we're on track this year to hit that as well. So phone call taken in the front office, about 3,050. We did 532 pest control appointments, had just over 1,200 walk-ins, and did 47 new homeowner orientations, and updated 149 emergency contact forms. Those are starting to taper off as we get out of the annual meeting season. We had 66 alteration forms submitted and processed. We issued 17 violations only, and we processed 163 invoices through Avid and drew up 7 new contracts. And again, for contract-wise, we're trying to make sure we protect the association. So if you're starting to do a big project, painting, roofing, anything really over, say, $5,000, touch base if you can. Let us help you out. Let us help work up a contract for you or assist with bids. And it protects the association, make sure there's a proper contract, and we kind of go through those steps to make sure that all the liens are removed and the checks are processed accordingly, and all the warranties are in place. So, insurance is renewing on April 15th. We'll have some information in the next 2 weeks from USI, but we do have word that there's only going to be a 17% increase on the property policy, which is about $100,000 under budget. So a large portion of the of the policies is coming under budget, which is a good sign. And I think it's a great price for what's going on in the marketplace in the world right now. Favorite topic: trash collection and recycling. So we have a new contract, obviously. Remember, the Hillsborough County chose to switch from Waste Connections. So they were no longer provided in the area, which forced the residents of Kings Point to go with a new provider, which was FCC. And needless to say, we've had some issues with recycling, especially on the commercial side. So there's about 69 associations that are struggling with recycling pickup. We've been working constantly with them, trying to sort this issue out. They have been picking up the trash properly, which is obviously a good thing. We don't want trash piling up. Recycling is the next hurdle. They continue to switch days on us. Me and Jack have had conversations about their operations and what they can handle. And basically comes out at them having two different divisions. There's a residential division that handles all the residential homes in here, which pay through their county taxes. And then the commercial side is basically a commercial recycling account, and those are the folks that utilize the dumpsters. What's been agreed upon in the past with the county is that all these commercial folks have had the ability to get their own individual recycling tote at their unit. So if they can store it in a garage or a carport or in the back of their golf cart garage, they were allowed to do that. And this is kind of an obstacle that FCC has ran into and are working through that. So they've had multiple different trucks in here picking up various days. The latest one yesterday, they confirmed they were coming out. We sent out a notice. They come out and get a portion of the recycling and not the ones down by the roadway. So today they are sending out a side grab arm truck. So we had some suggestions for them to blend the routes, and I think they're going to be doing that. So hopefully, as we continue to move forward, they're learning the routes. They're going to have two different trucks in here picking up the recycling by the dumpsters, as well as those folks down by their driveway. So it is a continual work in process. The county is heavily involved. FCC general manager, everybody's involved, so we're working through it. If you're on the other side, the residential side, you can call the county directly to deal with them. But if you're having a continued issue, there was one association that they weren't getting trash picked up. I think I don't know, they didn't have the addresses or something going on, so they were contacting us. I can reach out to the county manager and help expedite that. We're sending them, snippets of all the addresses for that condo, as well as a site map and location, trying to help improve that quality. So hopefully, Quail Pass can get on the residential route and get picked up. I know their residents were having some troubles with that. So any issues, please let me know. We've got contacts. We'll try to help out and get it sorted out. Moving on to Spectrum. We are in the last year of the Spectrum contract, so negotiations are in process with a renewal with Spectrum, as well as getting additional bids and options for other services. So we have met, myself and Tom Murphy, Tom's here today, but we've met with several of their fiber network providers and have obtained some bids from them. And we're going to be debriefing and meeting with the Federation Board shortly to present some of the findings and take the next steps. The hurricane season is coming up, and I'm sure we'll discuss it more, but the next disaster symposium is Monday, March 7th at 9:30. It's a full invite for anybody that wants to come. There's going to be loads of information, lots of speakers. We'll move through it pretty quickly, and there'll be a delicious breakfast hosted by USI from Panera. So, we're going to limit the bagels this year, though. So. Landscaping. So we have officially received all of the landscape new contracts that will start April 1st. So the last one did get signed by the vendor, so we are excited to have those locked in.
It's now been signed by the board also, so all four of them have been fully executed.
Perfect. So we'll have our first approach to 4 sections, 4 completely different vendors, so we're looking forward to that. We have set up a pre-launch meeting with all the vendors, the landscape committees, and the vendor teams with First Service. Now it's going to be held on March 22nd. Again, that's just going to get everybody on the same page and get all the deficiencies going and the pre-inspections going. So all those places that we're going to be changing the landscapers, there will be deficiency reports on what the exiting vendor has to finish, as well as the new vendors coming in are going to assess the entire section and have their reports on what they noticed, and we'll have all that in our record. So we'll be off on a good start there. Last month's landscaping workshop was all about fertilization and horticulture. We had a great guest speaker from one of the vendors, and it was well received. The speaker enjoyed it, and we'll be doing more of those with those guest speakers from different vendors. The palm and oak tree trimming, we have recently sent out a survey to discuss some of the palm tree trimming. It was a very brief survey question discussing the preferences on the trimming. We'll have those results in this weekend. I think the due date on it was today, so we'll have the results back to the board on that. The full annual pruning has started a little bit early this year. We've started them back in the back of section 4. They're going to be doing additional cleaning out of the interior of the hardwoods and the oak trees, as well as elevation and moving them off the buildings this year. So it's a 3-step process for the oak tree trimming. And they're going to be going at it pretty heavy this year, so they've started a little bit early. There's no additional cost to do that, but there is additional work that they're going to be doing this year. Mulch, there's about a handful of associations that are mulching in the springtime. Ryan's met with them, and they'll be delivering and installing those later this month. Month of February for landscaping work orders, there's only 13, mostly requests and some damages for section 3. And lastly, we had a nice board certification class last week. Webb Milton from Bush Ross taught the class. It was hosted by First Service, and we had over 160 board members in attendance. So it was well attended. It was a great meeting. We hope everybody enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, or if you have board members that are still, stuck on what they need to do, please call us. Please call your CAM. Please call me. We'll work with you to get through the processes, the expectations, and the day-to-day needs as a board member or as a POC, whatever it is. Just reach out to us. We had people that are still a little bit confused on what needs to be done. So just ask the questions. Ask the questions. We'll get you the answers for you. And that's all I have.
You made that easy, and I was just going to look up an email which I received going along with your comment on March 22nd, and I don't think you received this. On March 22nd, Bush Ross will be providing a virtual board certification class. And if you would have anybody on the boards who don't have their certifications and need it, if you would have them call you, and you can give Bush Ross a call and let them know that they would be attending, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, we can do a e-blast to just the boards.
And just let them know that there is a virtual presentation being put on by Bush Ross, and they just ask people to RSVP, and then they will provide the necessary call-in information for it. So it's a second opportunity because it is a requirement that they either read the documents and sign that they have read them and understand them, or they go through the certification class. So there is no fee for it. Bush Ross does it for its clients, so it would be more than happy to assist Kings Point in a virtual manner. Keith, I just want to say to you, and it becomes funny in talking to Keith. I call him on Tuesday and he tells me, oh, I just sent out an email blast, they're picking up recycling on Wednesday. I call him on Wednesday and he goes, you're not going to believe this, they just called and told me they're doing it on Thursday. They just can't seem to get it together. They continually change it, and I know that you basically are going through recycle hell with FCC, and I want to thank you for all the time you spend on the phone with whether it's the county, whether it's the FCC, in trying to get the problem of it resolved. Keith and I discussed yesterday is why don't they just add the 16 streets that have their own individual trash bins added to the residential route. The county has already approved residential trucks picking them up. Keith has presented that to them and he goes, well, I got to get above approval, so hopefully if we can do that, it would resolve the issue to let the residential recycle pick up those particular bins at the end of the street. They came back to Keith last week with, well, we want to change the bins out, and these bins were as big as the dumpsters you have, and we said, no, there's no place to put them, the community was not designed for them, so forget that idea. But Keith, I want to thank you for all the work that you've done. I know that it is very frustrating to the residents of Kings Point that they can't get their recycle picked up, and I know you are working diligently on an effort, so I wanted to thank you for your work and working with the FCC and the county to try and get it resolved.
Doesn't feel like we're getting all the way there yet, so I know it's, I know there's some unhappy folks, and I know some of the credibility from the, our side and the association presidents that are trying to pass some information out are getting bombarded too, so, we're hopefully getting there, but it doesn't feel like we're there yet.
Hopefully by the end of the month, we will have a resolution or before. It is an election year, and I said to some of the board members, especially ones who have recycle pickup under the commercial, maybe your county commissioner would like to hear from you and let them know, excuse me, we're a residential area and you picked this new company, get it resolved for us, because the county is the only one that can truly make the rules and change them. We've been doing this for years and years and years, and letters to the county commissioner, especially in election year, carry a little more weight of, we're tired of having our recycling sit out by the curb and not being able to get it picked up.
Well, and on a county standpoint, most commercial accounts don't have recycling. It's not supposed to have recycling, so this is an exception to their own rule that goes years back from being built. So they got to stick with that or stay committed to that, or the residents are going to get pushed to having recycling just by the dumpsters if they back off on that commitment.
Yeah, but I would ask the residents to understand that Keith and First Service and the Federation Board is working, trying to get this issue resolved, and I apologize that it hasn't gotten to be resolved as quickly as we were hoping, but we are working, trying to get it resolved, so the recycles are picked up and the trash bins are picked up on a regular basis. That's what they guaranteed to do for us, and it's about time they figured out how to do it. I just hope we don't get in the problem that Pasco County got into, and I think the county did a very poor job in picking FCC. If they would have checked to see how Pasco County was going, I think they would have used a different vendor. But it was all in their effort to try and save money. But if you think we have it bad, we've only been doing it since February 1st. Pasco County has had problems with trash pickup for 18 months. And hopefully we won't end up in that particular quagmire. So again, Keith, thanks for your work on it. I appreciate it. With that, we'll go to committee reports. Ryan, do you have anything? Liz?
The survey that has gone out to get your opinion on the way these ponds have been pruned this past year. In my estimation and the committee's estimation, the way the question was asked is misleading, because it sounds like when you read it that the only thing that's going to happen is that the brown fronds will be removed. And that's not true. All of the brown fronds will be removed. Also, the seed pods and anything that, any frond, despite the color, if it's rubbing on your roof, it will be removed. If they are overhanging your driveway or impeding people from walking and getting from place to place, they will be removed. regardless of color, so that no one, they will not be putting people in a potentially harmful position. So the question really was intended to say, are you happy with the way the palms are being trimmed? And so we'll see what happens with the results that went out, and then we'll go from there. So I just wanted to let you know, the way it sounded is not the way it was intended. Thank you.
Do you have any comment?
Nothing at this time.
Janice?
Keith said it all. This is the crunch month, so with the insurance committee, so just sitting patiently waiting for the numbers and get the premiums renewed.
We only have 3 left to go, correct? And hopefully we'll have those by the beginning of next week so we can close this out before the end of March and not have to do crunch in April. Am I correct?
Yep.
Tom, anything?
Just with the signing of the landscape contracts, there's no new business in the landscape committee.
Alan?
Nothing at this time.
Barbara, I hate to ask you, not that I don't want to have you speak, but I know that you are still ripping your hair out over the new website in J2, so.
Well, there is good news. We're starting to get some real forward momentum. So I'm hoping by the end of this month, we will have a new website to present to everyone.
That takes us to the president report. I noticed that Ms. Pico is not here today, which is surprising because she's generally at every meeting.
She's ill. She's ill.
Pardon?
She's sick.
She's sick. I wish her well. For those of you who don't know, she assumed the presidency of the COA as Forrest has stepped down. I know that she is a big proponent of transparency, and I would hope that finally with her taking over the COA that we can get the bylaws and the articles of incorporation, which we have been asking for months, to be put on the COA website, so the members who are the residents of the community can understand how the COA operates and being able to get copies of their articles of incorporation and bylaws, because I know numerous residents have asked for copies of those. We have asked for them to be posted on their website, and hopefully with Eileen's drive for transparency that we could finally be able to get those done. I would like to thank all the candidates who attended last Tuesday's meeting of Meet the Candidates. I think you all did an excellent job in answering the questions that were provided to you. So for all the candidates who attended the meeting, which was all 10 of you, we appreciate the time you spent in answering the questions and providing the residents with your thoughts on serving on the Federation Board. So thank you very much. Mabel, if I'm correct, those ballots are going out today. Is that correct? And they are due back by the 21st of March. On the 24th, they will be counted in the culinary room by an entire staff. There basically will be opened by one individual. The interior envelope will be opened by another individual. 2 members of the Standing Elections Committee will individually count the ballots, and Debbie Lauber from First Service will also count the ballots and put them into the computer. And then the 3 tabulations of each individual will be compared to make sure there is no discrepancy in the count for each office. and that will take place on the 24th of March, and then the results will be noticed to the membership during the annual meeting on March 25th.
Might want to add that if the directions are not followed, they throw the ballot out.
That is correct. If you don't follow directions on the ballot will be discarded, and I believe Ma Bell puts that in.
It will be voided, okay.
It'll be voided, and we don't throw them out. We keep them in the mind, but that will be within the notification on the ballots.
It actually says instructions.
And with that, we have no one who signed up for open forum. We have no unfinished business, and therefore we'll move to new business. There is an issue that recently arose before we get to the discussion of the tram. There is a new issue that arose regarding the exterior lighting of the South Club, and I'm going to turn it over to Ginger to do a presentation on that and what she would hope to obtain from the board, which I believe is probably approval to do that lighting.
Thank you. Just when you thought you didn't have to listen to me anymore. Just as a recap, Vesta notified the Federation Board of Directors back in January that we have a growing concern regarding the exterior lighting of the South Club. When I say we, it's the operations team, the management down there, as well as our maintenance area and security. So the area of concern is the lighting that runs along the south. Your report says the west, but it's actually the east. I fussed it. Victoria said she was a little directionally challenged there on that, but it's along the back along the water, and then the Scepter side, which currently are not providing enough adequate lighting. The existing lights that run around there are, they're old. Some of them were original, out of service, etc. Vandalism, just various things that have happened over the years. And with the residents' increasing usage of the perimeter of the building, moving around, going to the bar, and looking forward to the Tiki Bar South Club's pool expansion project, we felt it was prudent to recommend that more sufficient lighting was needed down there to avoid any possible future safety concerns, slip and falls, etc. We have a recommendation to install new commercial grade LED light fixtures that will increase the light along these frequently utilized walkways. We had 3 bids. The Power Electric bid was $27,098. Bates Electric was $19,262, and 6K Construction was $22,680. Vesta recommends Power Electric as the vendor due to their bid including the higher quality and more substantial commercial grade LED fixtures. The RFEC was apprised of this. We asked them to vote, and they approved to bring this before the board and to provide the safer environment with the higher quality LED light fixtures. This is a non-budgeted expenditure, and our recommendation is that the board consider it contingent upon the availability of funds in the surplus cash from prior year's account to fund this project. If funding is available and the Federation Board approves this project, then the project would take place in the 22-23 budget year.
Thank you, Ginger. So, due to the recommendation from the members of the RFEC, I would move that we approve Power Electric at the rate of $27,098 to be used from the surplus cash as long as there is cash available for the project, and we add it to the proposed repairs that we would be doing for the 22-23 year budget, because I doubt they can get it done before the end of March of this year. So we would just move it into the budget of next year, and we would use the excess funds as long as they're available. Today they're available, but who knows what emergency may crop up, but it's basically based upon the availability of the excess of funds to do that project lighting. So that is my motion. Could I have a second to the motion? Thank you, Ryan. Discussion? There is one issue, just to let you know, that we did have a conversation with Victoria, and I thought you were over there. Victoria explained to us that Power Electric was using a much taller type lighting fixture that would not be as susceptible to damage by mowers or people hitting it and stuff, which is making their bid a little bit higher
Yes, sir.
than the other ones, and that is one of the main reasons why Power Electric was chosen, is because of the quality and the height of those lights. Although they provide as much lighting on it, they're much safer and less vulnerable to damage by being hit. Am I correct, Victoria?
Yes, sir, you're right.
So that is why, you know, I am recommending, and my motion includes Power Electric, and I believe that's why Vesta recommended Power Electric, was because of the type of lighting. I think they stand about 3 feet tall. Is that close to what you told us?
Yes, sir, they're 36 inches.
So Alan, I know you had a question?
Just a real quick comment, a couple things. First of all, my rule of thumb, always, a health and safety issue, we just have to do. We have to do it. So I agree, I think we need to get this done. And yes, there is currently an unencumbered amount of $39,261. So as you said, yes, there is available funds for this.
As long as they remain there.
Yes, I agree with Ellen that health and safety is of preeminent concern. I would wish that Vesta can take care of this as early as possible into the new year, if, as long as the money is there, and I believe it probably will be, but we are going to have to wait until this year-end budget is calculated to see what cash is available to move forward into next year, as each year's budget stands on its own and nothing carries forward. And with that, yes, I agree.
Yeah, just a quick question. I might have misheard it, and it was said, but are these funds to be earmarked as encumbered? Or we don't have to do that?
We will have to, because it's contingent upon it. My motion is that we do the work contingent upon sufficient funds, in excess funds being in the surplus cash. Any other question on the board? Then I'll call the question. All in favor of using and basing on contingency that we have the surplus funds to do the lighting utilizing Power X and have them start the project as soon as possible for health and safety reasons within the South Cliff area.
Power Electric.
Power Electric, I'm sorry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then Ginger and Victoria, as long as we have the sufficient funds to be able to do the work, you have permission to go ahead and start to work on it.
Thank you.
Ginger, I'm going to keep you busy today. We have under new business the transfer of the budgeted costs. Now, these costs were budgeted for the 21-22 year for a new tram, which we know will not be made available until the 22-23 year. Normally, that money would just automatically flow into surplus funds with no earmark to it or encumbrance upon that money. So I will let you do the presentation on that particular item.
Thank you. I'll keep it short. The board and the community has heard me talk about this all year. This is a budgeted replacement of the 22 passenger tram that is a 2014 model. And it was time, to trade that in and get the new one. We made this order back in the spring, kept waiting and waiting, and finally the rep notified us that Ford had just discontinued building that model, and now they were into the 2023 chassis. So this isn't even built yet, so we have no choice but to delay the purchase of it, and we've asked the board to move it to the future year, earmarked as it did the tile. And the amount that was in the budget for this tram replacement is $65,250. We'll see what the market bears at that time, what the prices are, what the trade-in values are. I don't have any detail for you at this time, but at least by moving the money, we'll have the majority of it secured.
Okay, then I would make a motion to move from our operating cash to our surplus cash fund the $65,250 to be encumbered specifically for the purchase of the tram, so it cannot be used for anything else out of the surplus fund from the 21-22 budget year into surplus cash with the encumbrance the same as we did for the tile of the North Club 4. May I have a second on the motion?
Second.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Tom. Any discussion? Ginger, I would only ask that the footnote that you have for the encumbrance of the $200 and some odd thousand for the tile floor, that we just make this another footnote to that excess cash, so we know exactly how much we have in an excess cash amount that is encumbered,
You want it separate or combined?
separated.
Okay.
So the two different projects, so we did,
Okay.
when we do one, we can just remove that one and leave
Yep.
the other one there.
No problem.
And I will call,
Jack, I do have a question.
yeah,
If I can answer that real quick. Ginger, just, I'm looking at your report this month, tram usage was down 8%, and the total usage was down 6%. Are you noticing a trend certain element, I believe, of this tram stuff is in the bylaws, we have to maintain and we have to use them,
Correct.
there's certain numbers. Now, I get that, that was made at a different time, in a different place, and maybe a different reality. Are we evolving our thoughts here and our uses of money and replacing stuff that's based on old levels of usage and old ideas of value adds, or are we planning for the future and looking that it's decreasing, people are becoming more capable, driving longer, or whatever the case may be, and they're not it's not as important? Is this a trend that is continuing, or is this an anomaly for February?
It is an anomaly. I think the last month you would have seen it climb a little bit. It's a real regular service. You've got close to 700 residents here using it throughout the month. People that need rides to the banks or to the doctor, or you're always going to have a percentage of your residents that use it, because even though there's younger people moving in, the less than younger people are getting to the point where they might not be driving anymore. So we try to be conservative about the size that we buy. We're not buying, excessively large trams. Not only that, they need to get around the cul-de-sacs and things like that. And unless your declaration of covenant changes, you're always going to have to provide a transportation service. So,
Thank you. Just wanted to clarify
we
that.
also try to be, also conscientious about the repair and maintenance, and when that gets to be excessive, the team is very good about trying to drive smart. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I think that was going to be my question. So we take people to one doctor, and that one person gets on the tram, and the tram drives them there, as opposed to maybe
No,
getting a car?
the exterior routes are a regular route, and
Oh,
they'll drop
their
people
doctors
along the way.
Are
Inside, it's when somebody calls and says, I need a ride to the, up to the clubhouse. So the internal riders are on demand, if you want to call it that. The external ones are a route that they get on and have to ride and drop people at the bank, the doctor, the Walmart, the Publix.
So we're not taking them to Brandon?
No. It's not an exclusive taxi service. It is much more calculated than that.
And one of the things is that we do have services such as Good Samaritan and stuff who take people to the doctor's offices and stuff.
Yeah.
It'll pop on.
I got it. I was going to say that, Jack, I do volunteer for Samaritan Services as a dispatcher for local rides program, which will also take individuals to doctors, hairdressers, grocery stores, etc. And that's within Sun City Center. And if you have a doctor's appointment in Brandon or Riverview or Tampa, you can call the Samaritan office and they will schedule the ride for you. You have to give them 10 days notice, but they will do the out-of-town rides. So that we have great services in Sun City Center, and I know everybody will agree with me. Thanks.
Any other discussion? Then I will call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then Ginger, if you will make the, or have Dan make the correction to the land trust financials to encumber that money and move it into surplus funds, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, I'm done.
I told Ginger she had to do extra work today. Ginger, you did very good on it. I know you generally would have the RFPC doing some of these presentations. Just to let you know that it is still up in the air next month, but you will be notified if we do hold an RFPC meeting, and one of the questions in holding the RFPC meeting is the availability of some of the best staff to attend the RFPC meeting. I will leave that call basically up to Ginger. If Ginger, you feel that it's important enough to go ahead and cancel the meeting, or we don't have that much to discuss, feel free because of spring break to go ahead and cancel the March 16th RFPC meeting. I'll leave that to your call if you would like to do so. With that, I'll open the meeting to any good and welfare announcements. Seeing none, I will accept a motion to adjourn. Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Thank you.